Hey there guys, this is Joe from Tengu Drop, and today I'm here with a bit of a special video. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Shenmue and the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter, which actually got announced at the Sony press conference at E3 this year. And if you don't know this about me, then you won't know that Shenmue is my favourite game series of all time. And when Shenmue 3 got announced, it was literally one of the best days of my life. I know that sounds pretty sad in regards to a video game, but Shenmue has been more than a game for me growing up. For those of you that don't know what Shenmue is, I'm going to try and do a little bit of backstory about it and just tell you why Shenmue 3 needs as much funding as possible on Kickstarter, and why Shenmue in general is just such an amazing franchise and why it means so much to me. So for those of you that don't know, like, what is Shenmue? You know, it's a game that came out in 1999 for the Sega Dreamcast, and had a sequel as well, Shenmue 2, which quickly followed up in like 2001. And Shenmue is pretty much an open world action RPG. Yeah, just a role-playing game. You take the role of Ryo Azuki. You start the game where his father is murdered, and Shenmue sees you go on a journey to avenge that murder. And the story is so simple, but yeah, it's so deep. The more you play, you know, you're not just playing a game when you play Shenmue. You're playing this guy's life. You're playing as Ryo Azuki, you know. And I think when people do play this game, that's what they feel. The world is just so rich. You know, the characters, the story, everything around it. And that's not even on the gaming side, you know, when you include the music and just everything this game did at the time. You know, it came out in a time where these kind of games didn't exist, you know. This was kind of like an open world game, and there was no such thing at that point. Yu Suzuki, the creator of Shenmue, made this game, and when he did, you know, everything was new to him. You know, nothing like this existed. Shenmue had characters which didn't repeat. Every NPC was different. You could go up to them, you could converse, and you could progress the story that way as well. And for those of you that don't know, Yu Suzuki is a guy who was, you know, one of the biggest directors and creators and producers at Sega, you know, back in the day, of all time. Is one of the all-time greats in video gaming. If you don't know him, he made games like Outrun, Hang On, Space Harrier, Afterburner, Virtua Racer, Virtua Fighter, Virtua Cop, you know, a bunch of games on the Sega platforms in the early days. And, you know, Shenmue, obviously, 1999. And, you know, his visions for games has literally changed the industry. And Shenmue did, back in the time. It just came out on a platform which couldn't really benefit from how much effort it really put into this game. You know, there's a lot of kind of cynicism about the game and how it was a Dreamcast killer, but we're going to talk about that maybe a little bit later. But I want to talk about why Shenmue is amazing and why Shenmue means so much to me. So like I said, groundbreaking for its time. You know, its open world was pretty much unprecedented. You know, it wasn't really reliant upon fetch quests. It was more like reliant on story. And it was very focused on character and like development, you know. And there was a lot of stuff you could do in Shenmue. You know, there was unique NPCs. You could converse with all of them. You know, there was just so much you could do just in terms of the characters. Every time you furthered the story, you could have a different conversation with every NPC in the game, pretty much. And you would converse about them, and you know, maybe you would learn something that you could progress with in the next step. But it wasn't just the characters. You know, there was so much in terms of like what Shenmue delivered. The music was some of the best music, and is still some of the best music in a video game ever. Every location in the game, every interior you entered, every part of the world had different music. Everything. So if you include Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, there was like over 800 pieces of music just for the games alone. Think about that. Like every store you could go in, you could enter pretty much any building, and well, not any building, but you know, any storefront basically at the time. And you know, all of the music was different, and it was really amazing because it really made you feel like you was part of that world. And it's something that when you hear after playing all those years ago, you know, it does bring back those memories of playing it. And the music is awesome. Shenmue introduced something called QTE, Quick Timed Events, or Quick Time Events. It's a little bit up in the air about which one it is, but basically Quick Time Events was, you know, they're very known nowadays in AAA titles and pretty much any game, you know. You see a button on the screen, you press it, there you go. You could fail it, you might not. But Shenmue kind of didn't really invent that mechanic, but it did really coin the term Quick Time Events and made it like a staple. Back then it was something that wouldn't kill you. You know, if you missed it, you wouldn't fly into something and die. You know, it wouldn't be game over. The story or the sequence would change. If you missed one, you know, you might trip. If you missed another one, you know, maybe you'll get punched in the face. And if you kind of miss three, maybe you would get knocked out and you have to retry it. But it was really different at the time, and they kind of taught you, you know, pretty much how to kind of interact with these situations in a way where the story would pretty much change and kind of further the story if you did it correctly. And not only that, Shenmue was obviously reliant upon kung fu, upon fighting, free battles as they called them. It was very interesting because, you know, obviously a lot of games have had fighting in them, but Shenmue was different in the way that it was basically felt like you was playing Virtua Fighter in the game. And for those of you that don't know, Shenmue was actually based on Virtua Fighter, you know, Virtua Fighter RPG. That was what it was going to be originally, following Akira's quest, but it got turned into its own IP, Shenmue, and there's not really been a fighting system like Shenmue since. It was really amazing how they introduced it. You would learn new moves throughout the world from different NPCs. Maybe you would find a scroll, maybe you would buy a scroll and you would learn new moves, and you'd have to train these moves and get them to a certain standard to have their full effect. And when you did, their animations would change. And there were so many moves, you know. Shenmue 1, that had a lot of moves, but Shenmue 2 really notched it up. And battles became like a staple of the series. You know, in Shenmue 2 you could have one-on-one battles with street fighters, and you could gamble and earn money that way. And that's one of the other things about Shenmue. The world was so rich, you had to actually go and get a full-time job if you wanted money. You know, you could spend your money on the most meaningless things. So many mini-games in Shenmue, arcades. You could buy capsule toys and build up a collection of over hundreds of like capsule toys. If that's all you wanted to spend your money on, you could do that. You could play darts. In Shenmue 2 you could challenge people to darts and face NPCs. Lucky Hit, a staple of the Shenmue series, which actually got introduced in Shenmue 2, and I actually did a video on like a Flash game which was based on that. And yeah, duck racing, arm wrestling, you know, gambling, slot machines. It had it all, and it really felt like you was part of it, and it was what really made Shenmue amazing. You could just go and kill time and just do that. If you didn't want a further story, you could literally just walk around, you know, Hong Kong and gamble and play these side quests. And you know, that is pretty much why Shenmue is amazing. And playing that at the time, just think about that. In 1999, I'm saying this stuff now like, you know, oh, you can do this stuff in other games. You know, I could play arcade games in, you know, in hundreds of games since then. But this was like at a time where this wasn't remotely a thing, you know. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the impact of the game later on, but I want to talk about why Shenmue 3 being announced is such a big deal. Shenmue 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and it's been 14 years since the last Shenmue game, you know? 14 years. And Shenmue was so special to so many people, and because it, you know, it pretty much killed the Dreamcast and didn't do too well on the Xbox platform. Like, Shenmue 2 didn't even come out on the Dreamcast in America at all. Like, it was pretty much only released in Europe with Japanese voiceovers and English subtitles, whereas the first one was kind of dubbed for the English market. So they kind of just rained it out, just released it in Europe, didn't see a release in the US on the Dreamcast until Microsoft bought the rights to it and the English dub, and then they released it on the Xbox. So Shenmue in the US came out on 2 different consoles, and even now it's impossible to play them unless you own an original Dreamcast or an Xbox, or you're going to emulate them. So you can see why a lot of people consider this a niche game, but it's a beloved game because if you did play them back then you know how amazing these games are and how important they are. And 14 years later, we're finally getting Shenmue 3, and that announcement at the Sony press conference, it really meant so much to me. It was unreal, I was really trying not to buy into the hype of like, will they announce it this year? Yu Suzuki's tweeting things, and they did, and I lost my shit. It was amazing. Like, I can't even explain just how good it feels to be getting a Shenmue game, and it's good because Yu Suzuki, a guy who pretty much got put on the sidelines by Sega because he was responsible according to them, and let's just put into like perspective here. They would have to show, like, every Dreamcast owner would have to have bought 2 copies of Shenmue to see it make profit. It was kind of like the right game at the wrong time, and I guess that could be said about the Dreamcast in general. And it's a real shame, but now Suzuki-san is finally doing what he wants to do, and he's fulfilling after all these years. Everybody's been asking for it. Shenmue 3 finally is coming, and I can't even be more excited. Unfortunately, since the announcement, there's been a lot of like misconceptions and a lot of cynicism in the games journalism and the media about Shenmue 3. Just for the simple fact that it was announced on Sony's stage, and I just want to talk about that a little bit. The amount of bad press, the cynicism from some gaming journalists, if you want to call them that, of like, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to really bring down the excitement of this game. But, a few things. I've read that Sony are funding this game 95%. Bullshit. Every cent of the Kickstarter is going towards Shenmue development, YSNet, the people making Shenmue. Sony are just in charge of marketing and third-party support. This is going through the third-party branch of Sony. These guys, Gio Corsi and the guys in third-party, are basically in charge of releasing games that Sony fans want to see, and Shenmue has always been the most requested game, which is why they went ahead and let Yu Suzuki market his Kickstarter on the Sony stage. And all they're going to be doing is, if you want to talk about money, all they're going to be doing is paying for marketing and paying for publishing it on the PS4. That is it. They are not putting money into YSNet to develop this game, like to actually create the game. They're just helping with the publishing side. And as a fan, that is amazing. Yeah, I would love for them to actually give money to the development. I would rather that happen as a fan, because I want to see this game be the best it can be. And people are misconstruing that as that Sony are funding the whole thing. They are not. We are funding it as fans, and whatever money Suzuki has kind of secured himself, and that's really important to note. And another thing I've read, it's a scam because of that reason. It's not a scam. People saying this are looking to clickbait you into thinking something is wrong through faux outrage. Getting Shenmue 3 is a good thing, and even recently people are trying to shit on this. It's not even worth mentioning, but I've saw the most ridiculous articles come out, like, the box art, which they have as a placeholder on the Kickstarter page is hideous and laughable. I'm not going to support this game because of that. I mean, come on. That is ridiculous, and you're going to see a bunch of articles like that because it's just cynicism. People don't want to see people happy after all these years for some reason. And, it's not all cynicism. There's been a lot of good support. And don't get me wrong, there was some valid questions at the start of this Kickstarter, but they have, completely been passed out and passed over now. I like to think we're back on the right track because the Kickstarter has finally turned into something awesome. They just recently announced a physical PS4 tier. You can now get an exclusive Kickstarter PS4 package version of Shenmue 3, and that is great to go along with the PC version, and that has seen a lot of momentum. 30 on the 3rd, a campaign by Shenmue fans to kind of fund this game, has been a real success. On the 3rd of July, fans kind of flocked to pledge even more to this game because we want to see it reach its potential, The guys at Shenmue Dojo, Shenmue Gaff, they're all amazing, and everybody wants to see this game made, and they want to see it reach potential. And let's talk about the potential, because they originally asked for 2 million, and people have been pissed off at this as well, that the original goal was 2 million, and then apparently Yu Suzuki asked for 20 million. Let's talk about that, because he didn't ask, 10 million. He didn't ask for 10 million, alright? He basically said, if, to reach his ultimate vision for the game, he wants 10 million. But he could make this game on a 2 million base goal. And people didn't like that. People didn't like that he says, oh, actually it's 10 million. But do people want him to lie? Do people want Yu Suzuki to be like, oh, actually, thanks for the 2 million. Let's ignore stretch goals. Let's ignore how much we could actually need to make this game a possibility. Let's look at it straight right now. This game probably will not reach 10 million, and that is fine. But fans want to make it reach its potential, and when we hit those stretch goals, we feel like we're getting a little bit more into the game of what Yu Suzuki envisions. We'll be happy at 5 million, which it looks like it's tracking towards right now. That would be great, because he said at 5 million he'd be able to implement some new things and get a great version of Shenmue 3 out, and that's all that is important. After 14 years, I'd like to think that any fan would be happy and would have faith in Yu Suzuki and the team. A lot of the original members are back, and I kind of hope that's the case. I'm just going to be really excited to see how much this can get made, but I'm just going to urge everybody to go and back this. It's an important game just for gaming in general. This is a good story. 14 years, Shenmue 3 finally announced. All the fans are doing as much as they can. I've seen an influx of new people who haven't even played the games. But see how happy people like the Shenmue fans are, and they've pledged $29. That's all it is to get a digital copy of this game. And the support has been amazing, outside of the shitty press, which I mentioned earlier, which we won't touch on again, And let's just talk about the funding as well. I touched on Sony. Shibuya Productions are kind of working on the PC version. They've got a hand in the campaign as well. It's really cool to see those on board. They're probably going to be publishing the PC version of the game as YSNet develop it. We don't know Sega's involvement. We know Sega gave Yu Suzuki the IP. That is great. For Shenmue 3, obviously, Shenmue 1 and 2 HD, we would love to see those, but we can't ask YSNet for those. That is something Sega has to do. And there's some complications with the engine it ran on and legal things with that, but if they can get that sorted and announce that before Shenmue 3 is released, get them released before Shenmue 3 is released, that would be an amazing chance for players who maybe didn't have a chance to play these games to kind of get their hands on them, see what Shenmue is all about, because talking about it and watching the videos doesn't really do it justice. You've kind of got to put yourself in the game world, and let's hope people get a chance to do that, but that is all in Sega's court. And yeah, it's really great to see the Kickstarter back on track. As I'm recording this right now, we're at 50,000 plus backers, 4.4 million. We're going to be hitting those stretch goals really quickly. I would love to see us reach 6 million to get those free battle stretch goals in, like an advanced fighting system. That would be amazing, but we'll see what we can do. And the support has been great. Corey Marshall, the original voice actor, he's back. Who did not want that guy back? A lot of people said the voice acting was bad, but that's up in the air. That is its own reasons for Shenmue 1 and 2. There's a lot of kind of detail into why it kind of sucked. Recorded in Japan, Japanese directors. But when you play it, and when you played it back then and you play it now, you don't care. That charm is still there, and it's great that the original English voice actor is back. I don't want somebody else. I'm really excited that Corey Marshall is back. And again, the fans have really been great. The fans have really pushed this Kickstarter forward. And, there's been backers from people who went to Guilin and actually run a school, and they've pledged $20,000 because this game meant so much to them. And that is the reason they're teaching English in Guilin right now, because of this game, And the Shenmue is such a big deal. Shenmue 3 is such a big deal. When we get Shenmue 3, what are we going to be getting? We're going to be finishing the 14-year-old story, And Shenmue back then was a big deal. I remember having friends, people who wasn't even into games as much as I was, and they were coming up to me and it's like, God, that Shenmue game, that's the game where you actually can get like a full-time job, right? That is the detail. You could knock on any door. You could pick up any item. You could talk to any NPC, all unique. And with Shenmue 3, that is what we're going to be getting again. And I'm so excited for that, you know. And I'm just so excited to kind of feel the magic again, especially when you thought that maybe it was dead. I always believed that we would get it one day, but it's still surreal when you finally get that announcement. And you know, it's the feeling of Shenmue buzz, like, you know, you felt back then. To feel it again is just so special. And you know, maybe we'll get magic weather again. You know, Shenmue had magic weather. It was actually based on statistical weather, which happened back then in the setting which this game took place in, you know, 1986 to 1987 now. And you know, the weather would change. You'd have a day and night cycle, and it's just amazing, you know. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. Just to jump from Shenmue 2 to Shenmue 1, you know, it was kind of made like back to back simultaneously. The whole story has been planned from the start, you know. To see the follow up, to see the sequel finally after all these years is so special. And I just want everybody to just go and help this game reach its potential. You know, it means so much to me and so many other people. And if you played Shenmue, even if you didn't, you know, I urge you to try and get your hands on them, to try and play them, and just ignore the bullshit that you've heard about this game and be happy that this game is being made, you know, pretty much for the fans, by the fans, like Yu said in this video. And I'm just so excited, man. Shenmue was such a special experience. It was like so special, and now it's just so good to be getting it. I urge everybody to go and back the Kickstarter. Just do what you can, you know. Just I'll be happy to answer any questions about the game if you've got them in the comments. But I'll put as much into this as I can. I'm probably going to put a little bit more in before it ends. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I hope you guys are as well, you know. I'd love to play through the games. Maybe I will at some point. I'm going to maybe do a couple more Shenmue videos before this campaign ends. But I just wanted to address it here now after the success we had this weekend. Just gone. And yeah, there it is, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I really can't wait for Shenmue 3. I hope you guys can't either. Such an amazing series. I can't wait. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.